When you think about cities, you think about building projects. Is there the buy-in? Is there the budget to do this sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we can ever really recreate the moonshot. I think the socioeconomic conditions that existed for that to come into existence, I don't know that we have that now. And I totally agree, it was a very top-down hierarchical goal to set. But I guess what I think is kind of interesting about where we are today is that I think the way that goals get set is actually totally different, and it's a lot more bottom up. And what I think is what Kennedy set as a mission, I think we live in a society and a social construct where we actually have a lot more say in the conversation, and I think we can speak up a lot more to help set and fund those goals. Probably back to your point, Carol, about us having more stake in the game.
Yeah. And in terms of how you've gone about building some of those new ways of working, have you hired in software developers? Have you retrained architects? Have you outsourced it to an agency? How do you do this?
All of the above. But we do work very closely with our software partners. So actually, I should have mentioned all of those examples you saw. So the first one, we're working with Unreal, which is the gaming developer from Epic Games, to help us with that. And we're also working very closely with Autodesk about how to use their software, use the best of it, and I think that's been massively helpful. And we do have a strategy internally of not only bringing new people into the company, but also providing an environment for people in the company currently who are interested and passionate about this stuff to give them the tools and training that they need to just super boost where they are now to be able to fit into these new positions.
Okay, thank you very much. Please do get involved on Slido if you wish, or put your hand up. I'll come to you if you make yourself known. If I could come to you, Joanne, tell us a little bit about the work that Sherry Fitzgerald has done in the last couple of years and some of the initiatives that you're working on, please.
Well, Sherry Fitzgerald, I'd say most people probably know the brand within the room here, but we have 97 offices now around the country, 650 people or so working within the brand. And about 2.5 years ago or so, again, and I think Simon was referencing the point earlier, this probably view from the C-suite around, trying to imagine what a future look at what, a state agency might look like with some smart digital tools available to our agents. So we set on that journey. We did a lot of research with our customers, and I see Owen Riley here, and Healy Hines is probably here as well, BeagleBid. Estate agents have been trying to develop smart digital tools really for the benefit of their customers over the last number of years. And what we launched last October was the result of that research, which is a platform called My Sherry Fitz. In the first phase, we've launched it really for our buyers. So again, looking at the demographic in the room, I would say at least 50% of people here have probably bought a home or gone through that process of buying a home in the last while. The friction points around buying a home that our customers were saying to us around, I don't know if there's another bid there. I don't know what the current bid is on a property. I don't know what the next step in the process is. And the agent isn't coming back to me. I can't book my viewing online. All those kind of friction points. We all know them, we've all experienced them, those of us that have bought. So we try to resolve some of those friction points in My Sherry Fitz. You can book your viewings in online now, but most importantly, you can see the current highest offer on any property that we have for sale, and you can continue to make offers on that property and continue your journey. It is important to say, there's been a lot of talk about digital today, but for us, it was really understanding the role of the estate agent within that process. This is not online bidding. This is an estate agent very much still in touch with the customer on the phone, on text, on email, talking to them around that property. Usually we know them when they come onto the platform. We register them to make an offer. We make sure they're a real person, that they're not a robot, and so on and so forth. And we ask them for proof of funds and things like that. But it's very much the role of the agent still controlling the negotiation process. What we could see in the UK market in particular, when you look at online bidding platforms, essentially how Purple Bricks, originated. As time has gone on, they have been proven that they don't work because the customer experience is incredibly poor when you don't have an agent still in touch with you. And we very much feel as part of our business, and it's been, how Sherry Fitz originated, that the customer experience is central to how we run our business, in the same way as my other estate agents colleagues here in the room would agree with that. An agent is vital to a vendor in getting the maximum price for their home, and it's also vital in ensuring that the buyer is well communicated with and feels that they're on the right, transparent journey.
And what have been some of the outcomes a couple of years into that sort of innovation journey? What have been the results?
So we're a year on. We launched October last year. So we've about 11,500 registered users on our platform at the moment. I just checked the stats before I came out this morning. 175 offers came through the platform in the last month alone. So we've probably dealt with a number of thousands of offers through the platform at this stage in the year. The feedback from the buyer customers, you would expect, is really positive. They can see, they get the whole transparency thing. They're getting, digital communication from us. But our vendor customers can understand, and the feedback we get is that what is good for the buyer customer is good for the sale of their home. So we're winning instructions on the back of it. We're getting excellent testimonials. It's early days. We're our own proof of concept. Trying to roll out a new way of working to 97 offices is challenging. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of communication. But the benefits of it are growing every day.
Thank you. Doug, you work on the sort of connectivity side of built environment. Surely connectivity is something now that's standard, that's sorted in terms of getting broadband into buildings, isn't it?
Absolutely not, no. I think Lauren's point about design, it's amazing that these buildings that we're in were built, majority of them, before the internet. So kind of internet connectivity wasn't designed into the original build. And then equally, the kind of customer experience typically has been, you're kind of grateful for what you can get. There's lead times to buildings, and I don't know if you've experienced the internet going off in the office, but people get very, very emotive very quickly. It's quite remarkable, actually. So we span node out of our telecommunications business, Telcom, just because we kept hearing the same problems from occupiers and landlords. And I guess our philosophy is that we believe internet provision is modern-day tap water. You turn on the tap, you don't think about the provider. We'd like to have that impact on the telecommunications sector. And we do that by fibering up buildings. We drive as much choice as possible to give the customer cheaper, faster options in the marketplace that they might not be aware of. And equally, we believe that secure connectivity is absolutely vital, with the future economy being based on data. So we're starting to see breaches take place through the risers. Risers are not really designed in such a secure way. So suddenly the concept of who's in your building presents a data risk to your business. So we monitor the risers, we increase the security from a building perspective, and we give the best internet experience possible for that building.
Okay, thank you. Karen, from your point of view with launching the UK, the European headquarters, sorry, what's been the reception across the different territories that you're talking to? Are some areas more receptive than others to new ways of constructing?
I think we've been received very well within Ireland. There isn't a huge amount of large main contractors here who can bring the skill sets that we can bring. So I know a lot of designers have been very happy to speak with us. As I said, we have a design studio back in Dubai that we can utilise. We've got 600 MEP, mechanical and electrical designers working in that studio as well. So we have a huge skill set there. But I suppose it is very important for me to also stress that we also need to use local experience. It can't all be, outsourced to Dubai. Whilst we can do a lot of work remotely, it's going back to people. People deal with people. People want to see what we've done here in Ireland. It's all good and well as showing our high-rise buildings that we've done in Dubai and India, the data centres that we've built throughout the world, but people want to see we've got relationships here on the ground. So as much as we embrace technology, we also have to recognise people are still the most important people in this.
Absolutely. Vishal, there's a question come through from the audience. What are you and I's pain points that you think tech can help solve, whether that solution exists already or not?
We work with a number of third-party consultants, and I think the pace of change with all of our various partners on a project, the pace of technology varies drastically, and I think where we could benefit is more of an alignment, more of an industry standard. We're seeing efforts kind of on the design side with tools like Revit, and the speed of execution is improving. I mentioned earlier, our biggest frustration is on the construction side. Construction techniques are still the same as they were sort of 20, 30, 40 years ago. And the flow of information so that you can be responsive in a timely manner, it's a real-time manner. That's another area in which we suffer, and so there's an over sort of micromanagement approach to get that information. And I think most people in the room here will have felt that as a domino effect, and improving the flow of information is probably the kind of the umbrella point that affects everyone.
And how have you gone about managing that internal change to try and adopt some of these new methods?
We've tried quite a few things. So in terms of change, the three components that I'm kind of most talked about is people, process, and technology. And actually, technology is the easiest part, identifying kind of what the solution is and what the best provider is. It's how does your process compare to kind of what the future process might look like, and do you have the right people in place, not just to find the technology, but also to use it, the end users. So that kind of the three together build the culture of the company, and the culture of change needs to exist. That's kind of number one, and upskilling your staff is really crucial, and that's where the investment in training is probably the most underutilized part of change. But it's probably the most important, and the people in the process are also the most important.
Joanne, can you add to that in terms of your experience of managing that internal change, of how you've encouraged adoption?
Yeah, I mean, I think innovation is it's an area for all businesses to probably grapple with, and just talking to our own experience, I would say there's two fundamental points to it. You need a very strong focus around innovation, and what that looked like in Sherry Fitzgerald was back that 2.5, 3 years ago. I was asked to be the program sponsor for digital transformation within the business. I'm a marketing person. I'm not an estate agent. I'm not a technologist. I'm a marketing person. But that was a very clear signal that our journey was always going to be around the customer piece. So marketing people should be very tuned in to, what your customers think of your brand and your service offering and so on. So having a focus as program sponsor, I pulled people within a kind of a virtual team that we had within the business from all across our business areas. Young people, more seasoned agents, as we would have mentioned with Carol, not all agents either, people from our tech teams and so on. So that virtual team, we set about meeting, we had agendas, we had little focus groups ourselves. But the second point which we focused on, which was getting customer feedback right at the very start. Every time we had some ideas, we were going back to our customers to test things. All of our pilots were done in a live environment with customers, buyers and sellers, not just in Dublin, outside of Dublin as well, because it needed to work in regional Ireland for us. So having a focus, a clear strategic focus with an internal team worked for us and is still working for us. It takes a lot of management time to do that. And having customer feedback at every step along the way.
And how do you communicate that with the board, the sort of C-suite?
We have a direct line into our leadership team. I sit in our leadership team. I report on a monthly basis on our programs. I report on, pain points that we have if we need further investment. I'm flying the flag for further investment. I mean, it's part of the challenge in a private business. You're always probably fighting for your stake of the investment within the company. We have a lot of investment pieces to what we do. If I'm looking for 150,000 euro to make an upgrade to the platform, we're equally looking at opening new branches, which need a fit out. So, you have to be able to talk to what are the benefits and the KPIs that are going to come from your 150,000 of an investment, say. So you need a direct line into the leadership team and the shareholder group.
Yeah. And similarly, in terms of the sort of the culture, the mindset, how do you get an organisation to adopt a moonshot, let's go for it sort of mindset?
Yeah, that is a tough question. I think that's why I was looking at that moonshot story. And I guess for me, the two critical parts of the story were what I talked about. One, that goal captured people's imagination. So if you have something that people are enthusiastic about that they want to do, then it's so much easier to get buy-in. And then secondly, that if you have something that will capture people's energies and skills quite naturally and inherently, people are more willing to contribute. I mean, with our little hackathon thing we ran, that was an experiment. Like, we didn't know who was going to contribute. And I was quite amazed that, the executive assistants and HR directors wanted to participate. And they were like, we just want to know what you guys are doing. And I was just like, that's awesome. It's really cool that you guys want to participate and, figure out what's going on with all this weird BIM and Revit that we're always talking about. And I guess maybe to offer a dissenting opinion about this sort of VC culture and end user focus, I know that we need to do that. And obviously we need to be focused on answers and they need to be relevant for people. But I sometimes worry that we focus so much on these small things that have such an immediate direct benefit that it's very A to B. And we don't leave any room in that process for anything else to happen. And this was the other thing about the moonshot, was that there are actually aside from employing some people, there was no real direct benefit to that goal, putting a man on the moon. What does that help us with? Other than the socioeconomic stuff. But I just think that the some of the problems we're trying to solve right now become so constrained that they just aren't interesting anymore. And we're just not, there's no purpose really to the question beyond someone's oh, I just couldn't do this one little thing over there. So I think, sorry, that was a very long-winded way of talking about mindset change, but yeah.
So in summary, you're saying let's not have the moonshot mindset anymore because it was pointless.
I guess I'm saying we need to leave room for experimentation, and I think that this tech approach to this very clearly defined problem and answer just doesn't leave room for that sometimes. So it's just an alternate view.
I understood. And Doug, have you noticed over the course of Telcom and Node that imaginations on the property side are more willing to be captured, that culture is changing and people are open to new ideas?
I still think it's early days in the prop tech world. I know I did an app back in 2008, a month after the App Store came out, and it feels a little bit similar. I still feel the technologists and the property sector aren't as interlinked as we want them to be at this point. And I think it's on the challenges, what Michael brought up before about having a track record. I look at Node and I think, wow, we literally had a 320,000 square foot tower that had occupiers like WeWork, PwC, etc., given to us as a prototype, and that was out of sheer desperation about the lack of a great connectivity experience. So I think it's the challenge is finding the leaders in the industry and also creating the right interface. We were talking just before about how does a small startup interface with such a big asset owner. It's difficult because they work off a different time frame. You know, when you're a startup, you are kind of, time is the most valuable thing, and sometimes you can die just by the 18 to 24 month sales process with a bigger company. So I think that's the friction going on right now. But it's a great time to be in property tech, I think, and yeah, I'm delighted to be here as well, I should say.
Good. And Vishal, in terms of that analogy, early days of the App Store, there's hundreds and thousands of products out there. You're investing in some, you're partnering with some others. How do you spot the good ones from all the hundreds of poor or mediocre ones?
That's a really tough question. I think it's, you get a feel, and that's probably not a great answer, but you do get a feel for what could be big or what is going to be big. It's quite interesting. A lot of the tech firms that are coming through now, a lot of them are driven by millennials. And there's a millennial mindset that's slightly different to kind of other generations and different to my mindset. And it's trying to understand kind of the technology might be there as a tool for our organization, but also the people that are using it are going to be different to me, and it's going to be different to most people in this room. And how does that technology relate to the end user or the beneficiary of that information? So that requires a skill, and I bring it back to the point I made earlier is around. We're really investing in the leadership of that tech product, because it's that skill to be able to pivot or adapt their technology for the future growth of the company. That's what we're really looking for. So with all the investments and partnerships we've made, we feel like these partners will have the market dominance, but also have phenomenal leadership to grow their business.
And you talked at the end of your presentation about the future, and when you're looking at a prospective tech partner, or you're reading and watching about tech, are you thinking in terms of a time scale? Are you thinking about the next 12, 24 months, or is it 5, 10 years? How far ahead do you look?
It depends on the solution. So with a company like Guyana, a really young company, and we're looking at them as a sort of 2 to 5 year horizon. I feel like they've got first mover advantage in what they do. And for people in the audience who don't know, Guyana brings artificial intelligence and data science to non-techie people. So it's really easy to use, and you can run your own analysis quite easily. That first mover advantage and establishment, that's 2 to 5 years. That's something that our business can benefit from now. In a couple of years' time, the Googles, the Facebooks, etc., will inevitably catch up in one form or another, and then we'll take a view again at that point.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll take this one down the line, but in terms of a sort of follow-on from the timing question, what is something that our audience members could go back to their desks, to their offices, their projects today, and do something today? It's not all about the sort of long-term AI and robots and things, but there are efficiencies that surely you've all sort of experienced through your work, that something that could be implemented today. Joanne, did I give you long enough asking that long-winded question to think of something?
Yeah, look, I think everybody, no matter what company or industry you're in, you do have a sense of what the frustration pieces that your customers have with your offering. I think most people do have an idea of, here are the type of complaints that you get or feedback that you get from your customers. So you do have a sense of that, So I would urge you to look at that very closely, understand it better. If you have a sense of it, you could always do a bit of a dive to understand it better. And really, it could be over a lunch break or a breakfast or a cup of coffee or whatever. Get a few of your colleagues together and have a discussion about it and see how could you resolve that issue for your customer. Because it is not acceptable, today that your customers are having maybe, frustrations with you that they want to talk to you at 7 o'clock in the evening and your office is closed. Or, that they have to wait 2 days for something to come back. It is not the way we live our lives now. So, I would urge you to think about that feedback that maybe you've got, that little annoying thing that pops up in your head every now and again, that we should do something about that. Because you can. There are a lot of tools out there, and, discuss it and do a bit of investigation and take a runner on it. You can always backpedal if something isn't working for you.
Absolutely. Great. Vishal?
This may be a little left field, but this is actually a true story, and we stumbled upon this quite by accident. We were evaluating a software that enabled you to access your office with your mobile phone. And how many people here have the plastic card to get into your building?
Yeah.
I'm expecting everyone, right? And so that was a way in which so we implemented this technology, and that was a way in which we engaged with pretty much everyone in the office. It was really, really easy to put this system in, and we brought everyone on a journey to show them getting rid of these plastic cards and using your mobile phone. That is innovation. That is new technology. And there was a huge influx of ideas and creativity from the entire business, and so we felt that completely by accident, we'd engaged the entire business in tech innovation. So I think that's something you can do today, really, really cheap to do, and there's a lot of great information that will come out from your people.
Thank you. Doug?
I have to first say, get a node in your building, obviously. On a semi-serious point, all this sensor technology doesn't work without great connectivity. And there is a massive assumption of ubiquitous connectivity. And just a tidbit would be, if you look at South Korea now, they've got 1,000 megabytes, a gigabit as a standard speed. They're actually pushing 4 gigabits on their trains at the moment. So when you go home and do a speed test, you should understand that we've really got third world connectivity, sadly, at the moment. So that's just one thing. But in terms of kind of sharing pain, I had a painful summer this year, go in and out of law firms, in and out of the lawyers, I should say. And I think the learning I got from that, we were working with Aviva to get our legal documentation to be institutionally kind of approved. When you're trying to work with big companies, it's every word is scrutinized. And I think from that learning experience, if you're wanting to work with prop tech companies, I'd really recommend that you get in a room and kind of not leave the room with the prop tech lawyers and your lawyers, because that was such a painful experience that I don't want to go through ever again, and I don't think any other prop tech business wants to. And in our infancy, if we weren't backed by Telcom, that could have been the difference between Node being alive or not. Yeah, I think that the legal thing, as boring as that sounds, just kind of good practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen?
Well, I think for me, working in construction is a lot of mindset there in regards to change and embracing change. And I suppose one thing that I would always be flying the flag for is embracing change and stop trying to put that stop button on change. We're not, unless somebody here can invent something that we can change time, stop time, we can't. Evolution has happened, change is happening, it's inevitable, and we have to embrace it. And if we keep not looking to make that change, we're actually going to be left behind. And that's my fear with, certain senior managers in certain organisations who are with that attitude of, that's not how we do it here. We've got young people coming through who really want to make innovations, and we need to be listening. And we're lucky the way the industry is changing. Construction is the oldest industry. We're complementing it with one of the newest industries, being IT. People are really, looking at innovative ways. They want flexibility in their personal life and their work life, and it's those senior managers who just can't get their head around and see the advantages of making changes, that effectively it's going to improve your bottom line.
Absolutely. Lauren, you've had longest to think
I
about.
know, and I've just had like a massive debate in my head about what. I guess quite simply, I would. I mean, I don't know, but I think maybe just like get out of your swim lane. I think we all have our own swim lanes. We need to have our own swim lanes to be able to offer expertise in something, but maybe do something to get out of that swim lane every once in a while.
Okay, that's a nice sentiment to finish on. If you join me in thanking our panel, thank you very much.